Welcome back, guys. For this week, wanted to give a quick shout out to a vegan Turkish cafe that we hit up frequently on our way to South Jersey. So if you're ever going down there and passing by Englishtown, New Jersey, please hit up the Baklava Lady. Baklava Lady, you have awesome, amazing food. Thank you so much for me and my family. We always try our best to swing on down whenever we're going down there on a weekend, whenever we can, since she's only open on the weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can find her at the Baklava Lady on Instagram and thebaklavalady.com. Once again, in Englishtown, New Jersey. So check it on out whenever you have a moment. You want to pass by, eat some Turkish food. And that's it. Let's get started with the show. I'm Luis Agustin, and this is Read a Film. All right. Welcome back to A View to Film. My next guest is one of my favorite human beings of all time.
Oh,
Yup, that's right. Him and his lovely wife, Nicole, took me and my wife when we moved to Missouri in from the streets. They made us feel welcome. He is Father of the Year, Husband of the Year, and Dog Father of the Year. Please welcome Mr. Cory Hainlen. Cory, what's up?
hey, thank you. Very, very happy to be here, Lewis. I haven't talked to you in a while, especially with, you moving back and then COVID, not figuring out, kind of trying to figure out what work from home's like. But man, I'm happy to be here. I didn't deserve all those accolades, but we definitely missed you though. I missed those Wednesday night Blue Apron meals and those, cooking together. That's something that if we want to do that virtually or something, we'll figure that out.
That's actually a good idea. We might have to do that. It's true, man. We missed you guys as well, and hopefully, once this whole thing passes, we can go out there and visit again quickly because, we just want to get out. I think everybody, we can all attest to this, that we just want to get out and start traveling again. Yourself, everybody wants to get out there. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. And I know we're going to talk about the movie plenty here, but I have to say, watching people in New York normal life, going to different events and parties, my anxiety was spiking so many times this week watching that. I'm like, yo, time out. No mask. Can I get at least a hand sanitizer spritz once in a while?
After this whole wave of COVID hit, now every time I watch a movie, I'm looking for masks. I'm looking for hand sanitizer. Watching, I'm not lying. Like, I swear, every time I watch, I'm like, oh wait, they got masks in this. Like, it's something that jumps out to you, right? You ever notice that? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so nostalgic now. It's like, oh, the good old days. The good old days.
Breathing fresh air.
Yeah, I can't wait to tell my daughter those old stories. Back in my day, we'd go out for dinner inside.
Oh my god! Yeah, man. So what movie are we talking about today?
Yeah, we're talking Trainwreck. So Trainwreck, one of my personal favorites, mostly because of the broader Judd Apatow universe that belongs to. So coming up, loving all the Judd Apatow films. Really my formative years, high school, college, learning your emotions, learning about relationships, and really every film that he's done has kind of hit every gambit of emotions, and you've got the tragedies, but the underlining of all these movies is that it's a comedy. So that's kind of always been like a good kind of view and perspective on life, right? You're always going through these ups and downs and ebbs and flows, but it's your choice to kind of look at, life through a certain window. So Trainwreck's another one. It's a, very personal story to the main character and actually star Amy. She's got a lot of ties to the actual storyline itself. But I mean, Trainwreck's a great, fun film. Even despite me watching it pre-marriage, pre-child, and then watching it several times this week, post-marriage, post-child, it hits a lot of different feels and wavelengths. But I mean, it's a great film.
Do you consider this movie a love story or a comedy mostly?
That's great because it's definitely both, right? It fits in that mold of a a traditional rom-com to a sense, but you get a little more of edge because it's a rated R film, so you're not falling into that normal PG-13 rom-com where it's
Hmm.
overly corny. The corny side has been replaced with a few f-bombs and sex jokes, right, and that are very blatant. So I would say it's definitely like your traditional rom-com, but for the adult viewing audience instead of your teens and preteens.
I would say for me personally, Knocked Up is my favorite Apatow movie.
Yeah.
Because I could watch that one over and over again. And mind you, I still don't have kids, but I can appreciate and learn. And it's like you said, you can see all the emotions in this film, and you can get a wide range scope of everything that goes on. Would you consider this your favorite then overall of all his movies, or?
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites because of the unexpected, I would say, um, scenes and performances you're getting from a lot of the side cast.
That's true.
One of the common things you get with all of Apatow films is a very emotional and personal story to the main character, but that person is always a strong conduit for everyone else around them to kind of have these surprise performances. So you're talking about Knocked Up, you have like the random house that Seth Rogen's character lives in, and you're seeing like Jonah
Right.
Hill and these random characters pop up with things, and then here you see the trailer and it's like, oh, LeBron's in this is fun, and all of a sudden he's in it for like a half hour almost, and you're like, he's fantastic. And then you got Mike Birbiglia dropping dimes. And my favorite overall though is probably Funny People,
Okay.
and not a lot of people like that one, but it because it also has that Judd Apatow stamp on it, which is it's probably 20 minutes too long.
I agree with you. I think me and you have spoken about this off call that
Yeah.
my favorite part of that film is like the very first half, maybe even like three quarters. After
Mm-hmm.
that, it's kind of like, oh, it gets a little tough at the end. I mean, I know
Yeah.
it's serious topics, but it really gets a little tough.
No, and that's why they're good though, right? He's kind of the sad clown, right? It's, those films that you, you
Yes.
you always hit that deep low. You're like, oh, this is fun. This is like a charming little comedy, and then, oh, that's real. Oh, that's really real. All right, he hit rock bottom. No, we got one more step to take, and now I'm emotionally fatigued. Okay, now we're bringing it back. So Trainwreck hits that as well, and we'll obviously touch on that as we get through the movie.
So I was going to issue a spoiler alert, but I also wanted to ask you one more question before we even jump in.
Yeah.
Have you seen The King of Staten Island, his latest?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, cool. I was just gonna say it's like it hits the same notes, like,
They
you know?
they all do, right? And once again, that story's personal to him, about him growing up and on
That's
Staten
right.
Island. His father was a fireman, so I mean he does a great job of identifying those people. Because we'll get into this later. How many people are you watching? We're like, oh shoot, like that dude has 2 minutes in this movie, and he's now on in that Harry Potter film, or oh, he got a couple minutes here, and now he's in this other
Right,
film. So
right.
Apatow has always had I think a pretty good eye for talent, or he just puts people in the right places to get noticed later on.
And yes, you're right. The guy in the Harry Potter film, I didn't even realize he was in
Yeah.
this. Like, completely forgot about him. But spoiler alert, for this movie officially, right? So if you haven't seen it, please watch it. So my first question from the rip is, what is your favorite cameo then from this film? Radcliffe, Marv Albert, John Cena, or other? And LeBron doesn't count because he wasn't in for too long.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I would say upon rewatch, I mean, to put it as fatherly as possible, it just absolutely tickled me seeing Daniel Radcliffe in there, just walking dogs in this super serious film. You talk a big game, I walk a big dog. You know, I couldn't get over it. Oh, it's too good.
I think my favorite was the Marv Albert one with the commentary. It was just so like they're both hilarious. That's why I nominated Radcliffe. But where did Apatow get like yo Marv? You want to come on here and do a quick cameo?
Right.
That
Just
was
come in,
fantastic, man.
just throw some fastballs for 2 minutes. That's all I need.
Right, right.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah, no, and I got some quotes from that guy later on, but yeah, man, it's so good.
All right. So I wrote down, now that we're jumping into the movie, I think for me, the central theme of this movie is how we react to a divorce. What would you think about that?
Mm. Well, I think that's probably I would say a catalyst, because that's obviously how the film jumps off.
Right.
But I mean, it's really your decision. For me, it's choices, right? So it's your
Okay.
choice, and then also how you choose to kind of have your outlook on life. Because throughout all of this, depending on what she's been going through in the past, as a child growing up, it all comes back down to that, and she has to live with those choices. And whatever that result is, you have to understand those emotions and kind of live with it. So she doesn't do that well for most of the film, but I would say at the end she seems to be around the corner.
The reason I say that is because this is actually a great example, right? You see it from the beginning of the film where we have Amy and then we have Kim, her sister. They
Hmm.
both are given literally the same advice, same situations. They go through everything the same. And the younger daughter, Kim, is the one who makes, like you said, her choices to be more of a no, I'm not going to listen to my father. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do and what makes me happy. And I guess Amy takes very different choices as we see, but her reactions, even though I believe that they love their father very much,
Hmm.
her take on his worldly advice, I would say, is completely different from how the younger sister saw it. When usually I, I would think that, and I'm sure you have a lot of friends and you can probably know somebody that you can relate to this, but I've seen usually the opposite where the older child will just step up, be the more responsible one, take the more responsible decisions versus the younger sibling. Because this is something I haven't really seen in a movie too often, where the younger sibling is the one that's like, hey, I'm doing the more responsible choices. I'm the one taking care of dad officially. I'm the one, with a stepchild. I'm the one who's got pregnant. I'm looking to move on with my life. And I feel like Amy was holding on to something there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like that last statement. She's holding on to something. So whether or not if you want to really deep analyze this, her childhood was ideal up until that point, and then from that point on, she wanted to rely upon what was consistent, which was probably her dad,
Right.
versus the younger one maybe didn't have that memory, and so now she's kind of carving her own path. But I do think, yeah, for most parts, it's usually the older one that kind of steps up. But the Bill Hader's character talks about it later on. Amy's character is often choosing the path of least resistance. So despite whether or not it's the right or wrong decision, it's one of those. It's the easy decision. I'm gonna go quick, take this phone call because my boss is yelling at me, and then because I'm out here, let me smoke a quick doob before I go back in so I can mellow
Right,
out.
right.
There's always these little kind of things here and there that it's just kind of like I don't want to deal with the consequences, so I'm just gonna take the path of least resistance, just to continue to coast.
So that brings us to like our very first like kind of scene where they're like in the office meeting. Do you would you have been able to hang out in that office with everybody in the pitch meeting? How you think you would have done there?
Oh, man. I like to think that I'm adaptable enough to thrive in any situation. I don't know about long term, how many years of that,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
mean, it's just unbelievable, especially with her one coworker talking about his next research topic for his article.
He started doing research already.
I've already done research. And he winks at them all. I'm like, oh, that's too much. I love it.
Terrible, terrible. Clearly, they didn't have an HR department in this whole
Right? Yeah.
in this company.
No, they're left in the broom closet. You don't do anything but cut the checks, right?
Exactly. So piggybacking off what you said, I like the fact that she kept like not taking the stronger paths, right? So in
Yeah.
the pitch meeting, she's talking about, all right, well, I want to do this project. So she gets assigned to Doc Connors about sports. And she mentioned one of the first lines was like, why do we treat these athletes like gods? Or why do we
Hmm.
value sports so much? And you know, can you tell us like why do you like sports so much in your own words, Corey?
For sure. Well, you know what? It's as the further I've gotten removed from playing sports. So I got to play sports all the way through college, and
I
and
see. Oh,
and
wait, no, no. I see you practicing though. I see the
yeah,
Instagram, bro.
right. No, yeah, I'm out here. I got my my driveway hoop. I'm still getting it a little bit here and there, but uh, I mean, you don't know it's 9 feet tall, but I'm not. Let's keep this to just the podcast. But
Got it.
but no, I think the further I've gotten removed from competitive sports, I continue to lean more towards Amy, where I'm like, this is kind of dumb. It's not great, to be idolizing these folks, but I thoroughly enjoy them because I can compartmentalize that. Hey, this is an entertainment piece. Like this is something that I can watch on TV, take my mind off things. It's really fun to enjoy. Where Amy's on that similar mindset, where she's like, why are we giving these people so much attention? Like
Right.
what is the big deal? But I remember growing up though, and a lot of people don't get out of this stage, which is there's nothing wrong with that because I think we've all got our hobbies and interests. But these people are put on a pedestal. They're the top of their profession. So I've got a
Yes.
lot of appreciation for that too, where it's like you don't truly understand the amount of hours, the dedication to the craft at hand, that it takes to get to that point, which is why I still really enjoy watching the sports that I do. But but yeah, for her it's just I've got no time for it. I'm just going to move on. But this might be the only time I'll give praise to that boss, because I think this is a good managerial move for her to
Yes.
try to task her with it. There's probably nothing else I can stand on in the movie for her boss being a good manager. But
Absolutely not.
this one I was like, you know what, that's a good take. Let's get her in there. Let's mix it up. Let's see what she can do with this. From everyone's mind here, except for the guy that pitched the story, a boring doctor, right?
Right. Right. I was gonna say, and for me personally, what I always enjoy about sports is the fact that it's unpredictable. It's something
Mm,
that's genuine, and you get like true actual results. Regardless of how much people will tell you that something is rigged, but I always feel like that's what draws me into actual sports is because you see these teams at the top of the profession, like you said, and the results are actually real. I
hmm
enjoy, movies, and I do a movie podcast clearly as much as the next person, but these things are scripted or things that most of the time, like there's a predetermined result, right?
Right.
With sports, you don't know what's going to happen, and I think that for me, that's like one of the biggest takeaways for myself personally. You know what I mean?
That's so true, because it's theater at its like highest level, where you don't know where it's going and it changes on the fly. Where you watch all these movies, you can kind of start, like we all do. We start guessing, oh, this is going to happen next, or this is where they're going to get into next. But I mean, you're watching, it's just football in the second quarter. You have no idea how that fourth quarter is going to go down, and you're living off that emotion and that excitement play to play. So yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a huge takeaway from sports. It's just you have to be in it, because you don't want to miss a moment, because then that
Right.
moment's gone.
So I'm going to put you in a little bit of a corner here. You ready?
Uh-oh.
And I'm sure you've seen The Notebook, right?
Of course.
So my second love story podcast this season.
Hmm.
Why is it such a cultural thing in the United States for us to put our older folk in assisted living? Why do you think that is? Because I know your parents and like
Hmm.
your family hasn't done it, but why do we have that? Why do we have that thing in culture where we do that?
That is a heavy, heavy question, and you did put me in a corner.
I did.
I,
I mean, hey, look, before you even answer though, I was gonna say that the reason I asked that, and you'll listen to it when
hmm
you're here our Notebook podcast, but for Dominicans and Dominican family and like a Latin Hispanic family, we don't really do that like at all. Like even if our grandparent is like struggling or they're going through something, we keep them in the household with us and try to
hmm
nurture them and cater to them as best as possible. Like I
Sure.
said, maybe we baby them too much, but in my culture, and like I said, this is the second podcast on love I've done, and immediately the old folk are in an assisted living home. Like, why?
Yeah, uh, this is a scenario where you can really truly only talk about your own personal experiences, and that's how we
Right,
all get our own life window to view through. So
right,
I'm already way out of my realm, and to talk about a woman's independence and sexuality, and figuring out her life in New York alone
right. That's true.
as a married white man. But once again, I have the shared experience of having those types of friends, or witnessing those experiences, and understanding what the outcomes were. So for what you're talking about, the assisted living piece, I think that is a very American thing, where we're always on the move. We are constantly looking to, get that next job, get that next promotion, go on that next vacation. And a lot of times, let's be honest, family can get in the way of those things, right?
Very true.
We're constantly moving. And that mobility, when you have someone who cannot move with you, now becomes a burden. So what do we do with the burden? We typically push it to the side and throw money at it, or throw something else at it. So, I mean, there's probably a lot of other good underlying things to it, where I can't provide, the medical care that they truly need. And there's obviously all those things go into the decision itself that are positive and will help that individual have a satisfying end of life. But I
Right.
agree. It's curious as to why there's not someone that can, figure out a way to keep them at home and continue to involve them in the family despite what else is going on.
Right. Or just hire somebody to be around, like
Right.
we've seen in
But
other families,
But that's probably part of it too. They talk about money often, getting them into a better home or moving them to a cheaper home.
Right,
So if
right.
I'm going to have someone live with me that's an employee, that's probably the most expensive option out of the assisted living
That is true.
situations.
That is true. Why do you think Amy and correct me if I'm wrong, but did Amy not chip in for his assisted living? Like why is it that the sister Kim kept pushing for downgrading him?
Isn't that funny? That's a great
Yeah.
question because it was constantly her talking about it. Now maybe it's just Amy. She's what if we're going to take a stab in the dark, age wise, mid-30s in this film, and
I'm
it,
assuming Kim was like 20s, right?
probably a little younger,
I would
right? But
say, yeah.
yeah, but still, like Amy's got a good job for the most part, right? She's in a
Right.
meeting with the CEO or the head of the company, so you're in a good spot there. So you assume Amy's got a certain amount of money to her name, but probably not the best with finances, or
Okay.
because she's always going for that quick decision, path of least resistance. For her father, who's obviously a huge part of her life, she's just saying yes, right, without pragmatically thinking about, well, what are my finances looking like a year from now if I'm constantly paying this? Like, how do I get to my next step to feel comfortable in my own personal life? So that might be another layer to that too.
I was gonna say, and I hate to call out Amy on this, or the hero of our film, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like if your dad means this much to you, you should have taken at least to me the time to formulate a plan to keep him closer to you and in nicer living and kind of split the bill,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of to me one of her flaws, and she has many, but that one to me was the one that stuck out the most. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I agree. But once again, I think we're diving back to that that American lifestyle where you don't want
Right.
to be inconvenienced too much yourself. So if Amy can't go out for another night on the town or have a nice meal somewhere, maybe she doesn't think of it deliberately that way, but just
Right.
when the bank account shakes up at the end of the month, she goes, "Well, this is what I have for dad."
Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm already looking at my next question. And so we meet Steven, your boy John Cena.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, how messed up was Amy to Steven?
So Steven it's unbelievable how much when I first saw this film was probably so we're shortly after college in my own got a good job. I believe I was dating at the time, but pretty serious but not overly serious. And Steven, I'm like, Steven's my guy. I'm like, I love this
Right,
dude. Like
right.
fit, very polite, seems to have a good job. But then he goes even to the layer of he's talking about when he's working out, he's talking with his buddies about Amy, and she's like, you guys talk about that? And it's like the whole time she's the one that's not emotionally available, and Steven's like very invested. He's at the drop of the hat. Looks like he's going to cry at any moment, and he's got these huge wide range of emotions. And I'm like, that is me. I am a softie, full blown. You put
That's
any
it.
you,
All the listeners know. They know the
yeah,
secret.
right. You didn't let me
Right,
dive too
right,
much into the Notebook, but yeah, I watched that movie a lot growing up. No, but but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you instantly feel bad for him, right? Because she's clearly like just glazing over every conversation they have together and just using him as some kind of consistent crutch to lean on, while she has all these other options and adventures kind of on the periphery of him.
Her mean meter.
See, and that's why this is sneaky, right? And this is probably
Ah,
why, and this is why I think this film does a great job of flipping a lot of those gender specific like attributes
yeah,
and
the roles, right?
roles that you assign. But really, especially as I've rewatched this in 2020, it's like the bringing this to like a normal level set of, no, we all have the capability of making this decision or feeling these emotions. It's really your choice on what you want to do with that. So for me, it doesn't seem like she's being overly mean to him, but I'm going to put this at like an 8 or 9 because
Okay, okay.
she clearly just disregards him altogether. When
Right.
they
I don't
break
think.
up.
Yeah, she never took him serious. She never took him
No.
serious. Yeah, I get
And when
that.
they're doing the breakup, she's stoned and she's just kind of like laughing at him, and he's talking about how he wanted to marry her, and she's like, "I didn't think you liked me." It's because like she's never been there emotionally for him, or clued in, and then it ends up with her just laughing, asking if he can leave because she's too high to have the conversation right now.
Exactly.
Like I would much rather her like yell at him and like call him bad names. Like that'd be like a lower level. I would rank that than like this right here because he thinks it's all good, and then he just gets his whole world dropped on him.
So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit
Yeah,
because we're gonna skip the whole Doc Connors part. But um, I was gonna mention to me, and I guess I forgot about watching this movie from back then. I would have thought that Amy, when her and Doc Connors had their argument, their huge blowout argument, I would have thought that she would have ran back to Steven, but she didn't do that. She just kind of was like, whatever, I'm just gonna get drunk and do whatever I want. Or we usually will see somebody they'll do the revert back to what they used to have, right? You ever notice that?
yeah, but I would argue that her going out to the bar and she ended up picking up her intern, but it could have been
Right,
anyone
right,
that
right,
was
right.
next to her. I think that is her returning back to what she's used to and comfortable with, right? I
That's
think
true.
that Steven thing might have just been something that who knows what might have just occurred, and she felt comfortable there, and it's consistent. But really, because you start off with her waking up in Long Island, right? Or right? Is that where she woke? Where did she wake
Staten
up
Island,
at? Staten
Staten
Island,
Island,
right?
Staten Island.
Right?
There's a ferry out there. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So like that's her. Like that's how we get to meet Amy. This is her normal life. It's not she's waking up next to Steven in the morning. No, she's waking up next to, some dude making her breakfast, and she's trying to skimp out. Which we're gonna get there. This is not one of my favorite quotes that I want to bring up in the movie, but I laugh every time with David Tell's character giving her these little quips, and she walks in that day and says, "Amy, what happened? Church let out early?" And like, I can't, I couldn't get enough of
Or
it.
where are you going? This isn't Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
What's going on with this guy?
Oh,
So she meets Dr. Connors, Aaron Connors. Um, why did she start falling for him so quickly? Why do you think that was like portrayed in the movie like that?
I think for this scenario, it's one of those ones that you don't have a lot of explanation when you do officially click with someone. There's like another layer and level to it. Whether it's someone that's completely confident in what they're doing in their profession or who they are as a person, which Dr. Connors has some confidence growth that he experiences through the film, but he's obviously extremely confident in his work and the conversation he's having with her, and maybe that's where that clicks. But a lot of times too, like you don't know a person until you go that extra layer. So everything that she took him for granted up front, I think she starts kind of unfolding, and with him also having like an availability for for emotion, for whatever reason, it seemed to click with her versus anyone else in the past. And who knows? You've talked about like the dad, that could be another layer too, right? Like her dad has been in Sicily for who knows how long. Didn't seem like very long because they're packing away. So that could be one of those another catalysts in her life where she's starting to rethink and revisit kind of her current lifestyles.
I was going to mention, in another reference to the Notebook, is I really appreciated how Aaron Connors was so straightforward about wanting to date. Like it was very
Mm-hmm.
refreshing. Like for to me, it's rare to see a guy just shoot a shot right away. Like, hey, no, why can't we date? Why can't we talk this out? Like, why are you pushing me away so quickly when we're just having a little argument? And that was to me one of the best things I saw about like his character and development in the movie.
Oh yeah, it's and that's where it's fun to see these. Like I said earlier, it's these gender reversals, at least from a cultural norm, right? We understand that anyone, any gender, any person can fit into these different roles, but how we used to view that is, the man's the one that's not typically emotionally available. Where he's saying, "Hey, right off the bat, I'm in. Let's
Right,
do this.
right,
I don't care what
right.
else is going on. I like you, like me. Let's just figure it out." Because you growing up, you do live off the emotions day to day, but then you get older, you get in a serious relationship. Like, no, this is work. You got to make you got to have a tough conversation to be able to get it to the next day. And he's
That's
right off
true.
the bat saying, "Hey, we're going to do this." And of course, her very resistant, especially when she's sitting next to her coworker, and he calls her the morning after where they first hook up, and she's like, and they're like, "Oh, what is he doing? Oh no, this has to be a mistake. Hey, Dr. Connors, yeah, this is Amy. Oh
Yes,
yeah,
yes, 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 yes.
yeah." Oh, but yeah, I mean, I'll let you move on here, but I mean, yeah, he's available, and and that's kind of right off the bat why he was a joy for me during this film.
No, I was actually going to move on to putting you slightly in another corner. I don't know if you're ready for that, but maybe we
Bring
should
it.
talk about LeBron's cameo. What did you think about his digs about winning 2 rings, Cleveland welcoming him back, setting the record straight? LeBron, there is a huge difference between Miami and Cleveland. I'm just gonna throw that
Yeah. No, that's the best part of it all. No, I'm admittedly a huge LeBron James fan. Always have been, always will be. So, I've followed with the Miami. He came back to Cleveland. I'm over here celebrating his LA Lakers victory like I'm an LA Lakers fan. So for me, I saw this film. It's like he just won back-to-back championships. He just went back to Cleveland. And then actually this came out in 2015. 2016, he finally wins the chip for Cleveland. So he's on, and like I'm instantly on like an emotional high for him. Like I'm like, oh, this is great. Keep feeding me, LeBron. These are fantastic. His takes on everything and like the character they crafted, because of course he's playing himself, but him being like this ultra frugal and like wanted everything to be straightforward with him and Dr. Connors as like even as possible. It just cracks me up. Where they're breaking down the bill, he's like, no.
You're 32.
He's like, yeah. You got 2 sodas. I told you those were not free refills. I told you,
I gotta say, listen, I've always been like so on LeBron, and I give it up to him like 100%. He's an awesome athlete, but I would say that I'm really looking forward to him stepping into more of acting roles. Like he's really genuinely good. Like I really enjoy his charisma on screen. That'll
yeah.
get.
No, I would agree. And this was his first real foray into all this. So if you watch some of like the deleted scenes, I actually have the DVD of this, and you've got Judd Apatow like trying to coach him up on his voice, because he's a huge dude. He's got a really deep voice. So there's parts in these deleted scenes where they're trying to prop him up to kind of go a little higher of a pitch. And of course, LeBron at first is over exaggerating to try to get to the point. So you have LeBron in the cafe, like, yeah, you want to split the bill? Like trying to get so the audio's right. And then they bring him back down. But I mean, it's just, and the whole Cleveland cell is just phenomenal. Like, do you know Cleveland's a great place for the family? Yeah. Yeah, I do. You tell me that all the time. You randomly just text me that. What's wrong with that? It's weird. I got free texting.
Did you know that Chris Rock wrote some of his lines? Did you look that up?
I did. Yeah, and I saw he coached him up on a lot of it. I didn't either, because all I knew was really that Apatow piece of that. So, but I mean, if I were to, we're gonna get MVP later, and I've got different thoughts on that. But I mean, when I first watched this, like he's the one that jumped off and stole the film for me. Whether or not it's just because of my affinity for LeBron as an athlete at the time, or just the unexpectedness of him being in it so much, but also the one-liners and zingers he's coming with. Like when he's quoting Gold Digger to Bill Hader in the gym. Like I'm just losing it, and Bill Hader's completely confused.
No one wants a baby mama.
Yeah. Now you got to convince your best friend that it's his kid, and then.
All right. Since I know you can handle it, I'm gonna put you in another corner. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, this is the fourth one. We're in the box.
Yeah. We're in the box. Before we get to quotes and scenes. I had a big back and forth with my producer about this one. And I kind of agreed with Gordon, her dad, that he wasn't officially a grandpa, but I do see the technicality already where he was a step grandparent. How did you take that in line when he was dropping that on his daughter?
Well, let me real quick. I thought you were just headed towards that you were agreeing with him that the Babe Ruth stats should have an asterisk to it.
100%. Every Dominican.
hey, this is probably the first time I've seen that argument verbalized in a film, even though how many times I've thought it. But I was just dying. He's like, yeah, any Dominican kid right now could throw 90. It's like Babe Ruth out here smoking packs, and so I was just dying. But no,
it was so ahead of its time. It's true. It's true. I was like, oh my God, that's true. But yeah, like they needed more diversity. He's so right. Oh my God, he's so right.
Exactly. No, but with being a step grand, I don't have the huge experience here to talk about this, other than being a father myself, but also having best friends that have children. And I'm Uncle Cory to a lot of these kids. Like I love getting to experience their life and and being in that relationship with them. So for me, like, this was a tough one because regardless of how you truly feel towards this step grandchild,
Right.
it's
Right.
your child who's the mother of him. So
Right.
we all know that Colin Quinn's character's not getting the best dad award. Sorry,
No, no, no,
sorry,
no, 100%.
sorry, Gordon. Lewis already gave me that, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but so, like, the expectations were already low, but you have like the capacity to whatever emotion you're attaching to this grandchild of yours to still be supporting of your actual child, because she's living with him, she's nurturing him, she's helping raise him, and for her to hear that, I can only imagine how crushing that would be,
I know.
during that moment.
Listen, and like you said, like I have a nephew. Shout outs to my nephew Felix. Like, my sister-in-law, she knows, like, I love him like one of my own kids. Like, if he
Hmm.
was one of my own kids, like, it's crazy. Like, you just get attached to somebody so much. And to me, I guess, it's a shame. And even though I do agree with him, his views, but it's still a shame that he couldn't open up his heart to his daughter's stepson. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is just crazy, man, to see that in the movie.
Yeah, but to put him in a box, though, I mean, this person, he's been, even during his eulogy, spoilers, we already said that,
Yeah, go ahead.
and that's a heavy spot too. But you his own daughter quotes him as, he's an asshole. so,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, that's his mo. I don't think he ever had the capability of going that far. So I wouldn't say it wasn't expected, because that's kind of the outcome I thought, that would come of it.
all right, let's do it. What's your favorite quote?
Oh my goodness. I mean, there's so many. I mean, a lot of the good quotes are, from, because Amy drives this film, so like I want to pick an Amy one here. The ones that stand out to me though are like the movie scene with John Cena, because that's such a good interaction, and she's feeding him lines, and then she's like, tell him you'll f him up, he's like, I will enter you, and the dude's like, you know what I do to assholes? I lick them. And they're just like, what is going on? You're not about that life, player. You're not about that life. Oh, I mean, in anything with LeBron in it, he calls
Oh
Amy,
yeah.
when they're at the table, when they call Amy, and he's like, ooh, my boy got intimate. Like, it's just funny to think that, like, if he was really having a conversation like that in real life, you see him on camera for the first time at this stage of his, like, basketball career. I mean, that's great. And then the other one, we already talked about it, but it's Daniel Radcliffe, right?
Yeah.
I,
Oh my
I,
god, yeah.
I need help with my dog. I can see
Yeah.
that. I'd love to be the one to help you with your dog. What's your technique? I put him on a leash and walk him. You talk, you talk a big game. It's because I walk a big dog. Like, and that's just in the periphery of the other movie scene we just talked about too, which is why it adds to it. It's just, there's always these things like outside of your day to day that just crack me up, and they're so subtle.
You bring up a good point with the LeBron thing, and it just dawned on me. Don't we all have that one boy who would interrogate your girl like, "Yo, so what's your intentions with my guy?" Well, am I not?
I got one question for you. Don't hurt him.
Yeah, right, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why he's fun too. He's clearly an excellent friend to to Dr. Connors in this film, right? He's just like, he is a really good friend. He's looking out for him,
Right.
which is it's just fun to imagine that relationship.
My favorite quote is actually from Doc Connors, saying, "Don't go to bed angry." And I hate to get it like a little serious. I know it's a love comedy, but
Yeah.
I really do enjoy this quote because he's actually not the first person I've heard this from. Like, I've heard this from, my parents, or, friends that I've had, that, you shouldn't go angry with your spouse or with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or because, you should try to settle things then,
Hmm.
um, versus like letting things fester. And that's one thing that, that really does resonate with me. And that should be a shout out to all lovers out there. Like, hey, try to work things out, and try to communicate. And, he really called Amy out on her bullshit. Like, he's like, no, like, let's work this shit out. Like, let's do this,
100%. It's so odd that you brought that one up because I don't know where I saw that on what social media platform, but it was don't go to bed angry. And then like the follow up was like, well, don't start a fight at 11 o'clock at night. Uh,
How late you think they stayed up? How late?
right, right. For him, like they clearly stayed up all night. But yeah, being a married individual, and I would say a very happily married individual, that's definitely true. Is that you each deserve the respect to make sure that when we wake up tomorrow, we're resolved. But you don't want it to let it stew and fester overnight because you're just going to continue to have that that argument or that dislike just grow even further, and
Right.
and it's no longer productive if you're fully dealing off emotions. This
Right.
movie's full of emotions, but there's a lot of pieces to Doc Connors that's very pragmatic, which is kind of that other side that you need to have for a relationship or a job or whatever it may be successful.
What's your favorite scene?
I've got a lot of favorite scenes, but we haven't talked a lot about Amy in these senses. But one of my favorite scenes, and since you're getting so serious, I want to talk about this one. When they're in Central Park, and it's when she's realizing she has feelings for him, and she's just like she can't just stop crying, and
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and then she's having the conversation with her sister, and Tom keeps popping in, and him and his son are on roller blades, just hitting that father son kind of like that vibe. But they're both nerds, but they clearly just love it. I think that is just like I love every part of that. Is she's realizing that there's more to life than just the day to day and numbing whatever pain she's currently feeling to being invested in someone, but then also the periphery of just Tom and his son just having a great time. But and she really unloads all of her fears, right? There's that time when she's
Right.
like, well, what do I do for this and that, and then she goes into the whole tampon scene. It's like, what if I forget to flush the toilet, and it's just not like a cute into the cycle one. It's like a whole like
Right.
bloody massacre. And it's like, what? And it's just like that kills me. And I watched this first time on the rewatch alone, and a lot of these scenes were like ultra serious to me, and I'm like, oh, this movie's really really heavy, and it is. And then and I was able to watch it with my wife last night, and I think it just goes back to movies need to be a shared experience. I mean, she's dying, so then I'm also cracking up and dying. I'm like, oh, okay, like this all makes a lot more sense now that I can share this experience with someone.
Right. That's true. I would say for me, and continuing our serious tone now that we're we're shifting gears, is when Amy speaks about her dad when he passed away. He did so many horrible things to a lot of people, but that the love that they had for each other, and no matter what he did, cheat on mom, be a drunk, he showed his
Hmm.
love in his own way, and Amy always supported him no matter what. And I want to also mention that and highlight that the fact that regardless of how shitty a family member can be to you, like you're always gonna give your support to them. And I
Hmm.
genuinely appreciated that, seeing that from her point of view. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this was based on her dad, right? That he has MS, right? That's right.
Right. Yep. I read that as well. Yep.
But and regardless of whatever they do for you, they're still your family. They're gonna love and support you, and they're never gonna leave you. And I feel like that stays with me as far as showing that dedication, showing that the way that you're gonna honor your dad even after all the shitty stuff that he did. It's crazy to me.
I agree, and that's kind of like the epitome of most of these Apatow films, right? Is that the climax seems to always be the point of the movie when you hit your deepest low, as far
Right.
as that character itself. It's never like a huge, action sequence or a huge high. It's always the character goes to a whole new low that they didn't think they can get to, and you really live in that kind of emotional space with them. So yeah, you get to see all those the people that he clearly treated wrong during in the procession there, listening to the eulogy, but they're still there to honor and support him. And you're right. There's a certain layer of all of this which is frivolous, because life
Hmm.
is short. So when you get to truly appreciate and honor someone, she did a great job of that, despite what he may have done to her or any of the other individuals there. And it's tough. It's a tough situation.
Speaking on the Apatow movies, like, is there's always somebody passing away significantly in the movie? Like, I guess I noticed. I was like, yo, it's always like a heavy thing that he brings on, man. It's crazy.
Always a heavy thing, and then like you don't I didn't really remember this, but rewatching it, it was he did kill himself, right? So
Right.
like that's a
Right.
whole nother aspect of that when you start thinking about someone who's going through a terrible disease and he's going
Right.
through MS. So that's a disease that's going to be slowly deteriorating his body and mind day to day, year to year, and he's making a decision to not go through that.
Take the medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, and Amy was aware too. Well, no, because he was hoarding his pain meds so that he could take
Yes.
them all at
Yes.
once. And Amy was aware too, and she didn't do anything. And I think that's another part of that why it really probably hit her so hard is that the nurse gave her that heads up, like, hey, I shouldn't tell you this, but he's been hoarding his pain pills. So I just want you, to do what you need to do as the daughter. And for her, that's probably partly why she lashed out, to her sister, and then also the relationship after that
Right.
point, because she probably felt a layer of guiltiness, because she had that information.
So after that, right after that, Doc Connor says, "I love you" to her. Was it the wrong time? What did you think about that, or was he just trying to be supportive? No, it's just serious. I was just
No,
like,
no,
wow, like dropping a "love you"
no,
bomb here.
no. I'm laughing because that's like typical like dumb guy like
Right.
scenario there.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's very good hearted. He clearly has been feeling this for a while, and he just thinks this is like the best way for me to be supportive. But when you like step back, it's like there's too much else she's unpacking and handling and to deal with to add this
Yeah.
other, layer of emotion and huge step. She's clearly probably never done this before. So yeah, I'm laughing because it's like he's clearly trying to be as helpful as possible and he clearly cares for her, but I mean, so wrong place, wrong time for that one. And
I
she's just,
know.
are you kidding me? You're gonna drop this on me today? Like I'm like, yeah, like you could stand on that one, Amy. Like you could stand on that one. I'm with you on that one.
So going back on something you also mentioned earlier, so Amy hits rock bottom, right? She has
Hmm.
no dad, no job. Later she gets fired. No
Hmm.
boyfriend, no sisterly bond. Let's pretend she's one of your closest friends, one of your closest family friends. What would be the first piece of advice you would give her as a friend when she's going through all of this?
I think a lot of these scenarios you look at, and when people go through tough situations, you look at like the end goal, right? And like here's what your magical life will be like when everything's back to normal, and you should focus on that. But for me, it's what is the one decision and positive step I can make today and tomorrow to eventually get me there, right? Because everyone's probably gonna give her support and like, oh yeah, you'll get over it. Or, her
I
boss.
don't feel
It's
like
been
she got any support. I don't feel like she got
no,
any support, to
oh
be
no, no.
honest.
In general. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but for most people, it's yeah, one day at a time. Her boss is like, it's been 8 days. How are we not over this? But I'm over this. Why are you not over this? But for me, for Amy, it'd be what are you doing for yourself today that will help you tomorrow make another good choice. And she eventually ends up figuring that out for herself. It seems like, which is her writing the story that got cut, and making those positive changes. But that's that'd be for me. It's what decision are you making today and tomorrow to help your end goal, and then also what can I do to help you with that, or just to be available for you, whether it's just to be heard or just to sit next to silently. Because other than that, I mean, I have yet to go through a parent's death. I've only gone through a one grandparent's death. So we've talked about my inexperiences in a lot of this movie. I am so inexperienced, uh, and
No,
that
me
I
and you
can I
both. Me and you
I
both. I still
can't.
have both my parents. Thank
Yeah,
God.
I can't imagine how much time that would take to feel normal again.
Right.
Or or like most things you hear, you probably don't feel normal. It's just your new normal. So you have to start curbing your behaviors and decisions to live with that new normal.
Damn, man, that's some great words. That's true, man. I gotta give it to you there. I gotta give it to you. Hopefully, with your advice, she makes it. But anyway,
Yeah, right.
looking back and thinking about it, like she never would have got into this journey and become a better person if she never got pushed towards interviewing this dude, right? Getting a better
Yep.
job, being with a better guy, like, quote unquote, I should say, right? A doctor. But like life is just so crazy that she took all these twists and turns, and then she ended up being even stronger and better for it at the end of the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of where that's why for most stories and movies, and and what I've related to this one as well, is your choices, right? So
Right.
she wasn't given the choice to take the actual story and article on the front end, but she did choose to move forward with it and take the steps to actually write it and flesh it out. And then all of a sudden, it's snowballing all on her own, and now she's having to roll with it very quickly, which then the movie unfolds, right? So her dad dies, like boom, that's rock bottom, but then it's and he breaks up with her with Doc Connors. But no, Judd Apatow always goes that one extra layer. It's like, no, you're gonna now sleep with the 16-year-old intern and lose your job on top of that. Where it's kind of like, as an audience viewer, I'm like, I think I already got the picture that she hit rock bottom. but probably for her in her life, yeah, I mean, if she didn't lose her job, she's probably still making those choices because she has a revenue stream to make those poor choices. And without that loss of work, she can't sit back and reflect and say, well, how am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I good at? I'm good at writing, so I need to go ahead and flesh out the story and sell it otherwise. Which you talked about earlier. This company did not have an HR department. Thank goodness,
No.
because when she went to Vanity Fair to sell this article, they couldn't call the other magazine office for why she got released because there was no HR there to tell her that she was terminated for sleeping with the intern.
I was thinking about that part. I'm like, wouldn't have she been arrested? Like, what happened there?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, pineapple.
You ready for some random questions?
Yeah, bring him in.
All right, man. At what age would you show your daughter this movie?
As a parent, it's like, I don't know, college, but as like someone
okay,
who,
I like that answer.
but someone who went through watching a lot of R-rated movies at a too young of age, I wouldn't. I think it's all within perspective, right? So I think, like, honestly, high school, because you're going through a lot of these emotions and a lot of these ups and downs, and at that young of age, that's why I love this movie and the Uptown movies, is because you get to experience them all, and your hormones and emotions are really high and low, so you're just kind of living it with them. But now, as you're getting older, you're in these sturdier relationships, you start to level out and you start to think about it more pragmatically. So it's like, okay, I can understand why that decision was made because I've experienced that before. So for me, yeah, Alice, it's like, yeah, go ahead and watch it, understand it. If we want to chat, we can chat. But it's tough as I get older and she gets older. It's like, well, I've done those things, or I've done bad choices. And as much as I want to shield you from those choices, those have shaped you as an individual and have shaped me. So it's just really, with a layer of protection and understanding when we kind of go through these steps as she grows. But yeah, man, I don't know. That's a tough one, right?
No.
There's no right or wrong.
No wrong. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was just going to say that there's no right or wrong. It's just like you said. I think that, and this is something that's great about Apatow movies, that when you're younger, you see more of the comedy side, and when you're older, you see more of like the serious tones or things that you've gone, or life experiences you've gone through in life, that it's like, wow, like that really resonates with me now. Even 5 years ago, I just saw this movie more as a comedy, and then now, like, I'm just different. I've moved, I've changed. I got married. Like, it's you see things a little bit more different in his movies.
Yep, I totally agree, and that's why his movies are so fun to me, is because it's just that, it's that tragic clown theme for me the whole time, where it's like everything's funny because that's the view I'm viewing life, but it's really at my own detriment that things are funny, because I have to laugh at them, because what else am I going to do? Is be depressed? Is Amy going to continue to live life because, staying out late, meeting with other people late at night, working a job that's probably not the best for her, dad passed away, or are you going to try to have everything with a positive spin to it, and make those small choices to be happy in the end?
That's my best takeaway from this podcast, is that the tragic clown. You said it best. I never thought about it in that, like, just that one word, but I can say it is true. Like, his movies are tragic clown-esque, like all of them.
Right, because in all these movies, what is really so funny about Knocked Up, a guy being scared to death about raising a child? Like, I've gone through that. Yeah, that's actually terrifying. Or in this movie, you've got a dad who's going through MS, and a family that's kind of broken apart, and you don't know, whose bed you're in the next night. Those are all like heavy things to be weighed on. But he puts that spin on them where it's like, this is really funny, even though you're dealing with something pretty significant.
So, how do you like the ending of this film? Let's talk about it for a little bit.
I'm glad you included this because I'll be honest, the first rewatch out of my several, being the old man, really not that old, but having a glass of wine at night, I definitely fell asleep at the first rewatch. So I didn't. So then nothing to the movie. That's just strictly me. But
No, no,
then
no. It's all of us.
yeah,
It's all.
yeah,
Sometimes it happens to me too, man.
just out. But rewatching it now, I don't think there's any good way to end a rom com, right? I don't think there's any good steps that leave you like satisfied and settled. I view these rom coms, really any of them, as like your real adult fairy tales because like they
Okay.
always end with "and they lived happily ever after." So like storybooks, Disney movies, you can always kind of have like a montage or like a nice musical exit for like real life comedies that are rom coms. You can't. I don't feel like you can ever do that well where I feel satisfied that the relationship's happy and they're moving forward because there's probably something else that's going to happen later on.
Yeah, another challenge. Yeah.
Now the ending's ridiculous. I mean, don't. I mean, let's not get it confused, right? It is absolutely ridiculous.
Wait, hold on, real quick. How long do you think it took the character Amy to learn this dance sequence, and how long do you think it took Amy Schumer to learn this sequence
Oh
off
my!
screen?
I don't know. I mean, well, she was unemployed, right? So she could focus on it all day. She's in her apartment making her downstairs neighbors mad as she's just clip clopping, in the
Right.
living room, we're learning it all. But yeah, I mean, weeks. But also as the adult now, I was so frustrated that I'm watching this and like she's like struggling to get ready for this huge event she's about to put off. I'm like, bro, you should have been at the arena hours ago. Like, like you
Right.
planned all this,
Yeah.
and then now you're gonna get stuck on a subway or whatever it's at. Oh, but yeah, I mean, it's classic Apatow, right? You watch 40 Year
Yeah. Yeah.
Virgin. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Of
they end the
course.
movie with the Age of Aquarius song, and they're all dancing in meadows. I think that just kind of goes to it.
Oh no, and then also I think about when he was just speeding on the bike, just trying to make it. That's like his race scene at the end. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's just how do you end those because it is a movie. It just can't end with a text like or a call like, "Hey, yeah, let's have dinner tomorrow night." Great, and then we live happily ever after. Like that's not how movies work. So we want to have kind of one big ending, however ridiculous as it is. But hey, she really committed on that dunk though. She had me
Yeah.
for a
Oh no,
minute.
I loved it. I loved it. I really every time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, she's gonna make it this time, right?" Um,
Oh,
who is your Arturo Fuentes MVP?
my MVP is Amy. and
Okay.
and I think that's always for me the answer in an Apatow film because it's always centralized around the actress's personal life and experiences, and
That is
so
true.
they carry a lot of the emotional baggage throughout the entire film. And the reason why that gave me the MP for her because it gives space for everyone else around to operate. So she's like this huge kind of presence in the movie, carrying all this baggage, and really every twist and turn, it's her fault or it's happening to her, and because of that, the people like LeBron or Bill Hader or Colin Quinn or Mike Birbiglia or his son, they all get this chance to kind of bring in a little array of light occasionally, into her sad life, which kind of makes it all more fun. And really too, when I'm rewatching this, it's just it all kind of ties back to things really aren't that complicated as far as expectations for the individual, for the gender, for your
Right.
role in life. It's all amiable, and it's just based upon your own choices and decisions. But I enjoyed her performance. I mean, up in that till that too, she was strictly a stand-up comedian,
Yes. Yes.
and it was nice to. It's always a question about those people, right, jumping into a featured film, and I thought she did a great job.
Believe it or not, watching it this last time, I'm gonna give my MVP award to Alistair. Like how you mentioned earlier, like we found them. No, it's true, and I'm just saying we found them super annoying. But now you look at it, and kids are very wise at times, and even when you least expect it, I think the fact that he mentioned to her as far as like she was included in his family with her boyfriend, like he opened his heart to her without
Hmm.
without any reservations, and sometimes you need that. That's very
Oh yeah.
refreshing to see, and I'm sure you can talk about it because you have your daughter. Shout outs to Alice, but sometimes you get those genuine comments from kids, and you're like, wow, like you appreciate that. Like sometimes I'll hear sweet comments from my nephew or any family member. Like you have kids and you're like, wow, like these kids know what they're doing. They say it with their heart because they don't have any kind
Mm-hmm.
of like stigmas. They haven't gone through life. They don't know. They haven't been judged that way. You know what I mean? And I get that they haven't gone through
Yeah.
life, but still, that the fact that they have an open, clear heart, and that I think changed Amy in the movie. I think when she realized what Alistair, how he made room for her and her boyfriend in his life, I think to me it really hit home for her, and that's why I give him my MVP.
I mean, I would totally agree that he's phenomenal in the film. We joked about this a little bit
Yeah,
earlier, not on the call, about Alistair just being my first watch of this, which was once again pre-kids, pre-marriage, just like what a nerd, like what is this little kid? Like I feel bad for him, like he's probably gonna get picked on. Everything that Colin Quinn's character was stating in the movie, and then now with Alice, my daughter's almost gonna be 4 in February. Like I'm watching this movie again with Alistair, and I'm like, yes, Alistair, you are
drop,
awesome. I'm like,
drop some dimes,
like,
drop some dimes.
yeah, like preach, let them
Yeah.
know. Tell me about the universe and stars. When he's talking about his his
Oh
telescope.
yeah, he's talking about the multiverse. Did you see that? The
Yeah,
multiverse.
multiverse.
Like wow.
I'm like drop some knowledge on me, but it's just like the kids have the lack of experience to know when to withhold information and when to guard themselves, but that's why they are so sweet
Yeah.
and loving, and a lot of times that's what's needed to be seen and heard as an adult for you to kind of realize what's truly important. And yeah, when he brought her the picture of the extra room for her and Doc Connors to be, staying together, she's like, wow, like, this kid's perception of life is much different than my own, and he's got somehow a better
Right.
grasp on what's important than
Right.
I do.
Any last thoughts you had on the movie? Anything else you want to mention?
Once again, I love the performances from everyone in the film, and you can see how many further career steps were made after this movie.
Yeah.
Right? We knew Bill Hader before a little bit, but I mean, he's someone to be kind of sought after with his shows and movies and writing, and then you have all these other people that are sprinkled in throughout who Judd Apatow has kind of built into this universe that he owns. We talk about the multiverse just a moment ago.
Right.
You talk about Marvel and all these films that are a part of their Marvel universe. The Apatow films have their own universe. I love being in the magazine office and seeing the rock star from Forgetting Sarah Marshall on one of the magazine clippings in the
I
background.
know.
It's like there's all these little tidbits, and it's like they all fit together, and they're somehow part of this Apatow universe that's all intertwined. And it's just fun to get these little things in the periphery that can kind of make you giggle and smile, even though they're not truly part of the film.
I love it, bro. Thank you so much for taking the time. You've been a wonderful guest. We are definitely looking forward to having you back on. I promise you that. And thank you to everybody. Thank you to the listeners. And we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.
Sounds good. Hey, and everyone, repeat with me. Monogamy is not realistic. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay. Catch you on the next one.